A Chinese company just built an electric car that costs $9,700. That is less than replacing a single Tesla battery pack. It gets 400 kilometers of real-world range, seats 4 adults, and in August 2024, it outsold every Tesla model in China combined. The car is called the BYD Seagull. You cannot buy it in the United States because your government made it illegal. On May 14, 2024, the White House announced a 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, meaning if this $10,000 car ever touches American soil, the price doubles to $20,000 before a dealer even marks it up. A customs official would watch it roll off the cargo ship and the tariff would activate before the wheels touch the dock. The stated reason? Protecting American workers. The real reason is simpler. Detroit cannot compete with this. The average new car in America costs $48,000. A Tesla Model 3 starts at $38,990. The BYD Seagull costs $9,700. That is not a typo or concept car. It is a production vehicle you can walk into a dealership in Shenzhen and buy today. It has a 30 kilowatt-hour LFP battery, does 0 to 50 kilometers per hour in 3.8 seconds, and charges from 30% to 80% in 30 minutes on a standard charger. It is smaller and slower than a Tesla with a basic interior, vinyl seats, plastic panels, no frills, but it works and costs less than a used Honda Civic. BYD sold 52,000 Seagulls in August 2024 alone, their factories humming through night shifts to keep up with orders. Tesla sold 45,000 total vehicles in China that same month across their entire lineup. That gap is widening every quarter. The Seagull cuts out the middlemen entirely. BYD owns the entire supply chain. They make their own batteries, chips, mine their own lithium in Guangzhou, and smelt their own steel. Tesla buys batteries from Panasonic and Cattle. Ford buys from SK Innovation and LG. When BYD's engineers designed the battery pack, they knew exactly where every component came from because they built it themselves. A lithium iron phosphate battery costs BYD $56 per kilowatt-hour to produce in their own factories. The industry average for an NMC battery is $135 per kilowatt-hour. That is a $2,370 cost advantage on the Seagull's 30 kilowatt-hour pack alone. Money that would normally go to suppliers and logistics companies simply stays in BYD's account. BYD is not paying licensing fees or logistics premiums or waiting for shipments. Vertical integration is how you survive when the government gives 47 other companies permission to build electric cars in the same year. In 2023, China produced 9.58 million electric vehicles. The United States produced 1.36 million, a 7-to-1 gap that is widening every month. BYD alone produced 3.02 million plug-in vehicles in 2023, more than Ford's entire global production of all vehicles that same year combined. Every F-150, every Mustang, every sedan added together. The average Chinese EV costs $31,900, and Chinese buyers watch showroom floors fill with options. The average American EV costs $55,242. Same range, same features, $23,000 cheaper in China. BYD went from concept to production of the Seagull in 18 months, their design team sketching at night and watching prototypes roll off assembly lines months later. Legacy automakers average 4 to 6 years for a new model, managing committees and shareholder expectations between each decision. By the time Ford finishes one design cycle, BYD has shipped 3 generations. BYD's Blade battery uses lithium iron phosphate chemistry instead of nickel manganese cobalt. LFP is cheaper, safer. It cannot catch fire the way traditional batteries can, and lasts longer. BYD solved lower energy density by making cells 96 centimeters long and 9 centimeters wide, stacking them like blades in a knife block, which engineers could hold in their hands to visualize. That design gets 50% more cells into the same space than a traditional prismatic pack. The Seagull rides on BYD's E-Platform 3.0, a modular EV chassis where the battery, motor, inverter, and charger are all integrated into one skateboard unit. A single assembly that workers bolt together in minutes instead of hours. One factory can build 5 different models by swapping body panels, the same workers assembling a sedan one shift and an SUV the next. The software is written in-house with no licensing fees to Silicon Valley. The result is a car with 90% fewer parts than a gas vehicle and 40% lower assembly cost than a legacy EV platform. On May 14, 2024, President Biden announced new tariffs on Chinese imports. Steel and aluminum went to 25%, semiconductors to 50%, solar cells to 50%, and electric vehicles to 100%. A $10,000 BYD Seagull would cost $20,000 at the border before a dealer even writes an invoice. Detroit cannot build a $10,000 EV. Their accountants ran the numbers and laughed. The cheapest electric car in America is the Nissan Leaf at $28,140. A car from Japan that still costs nearly 3 times the Seagull. BYD is selling a better car for 1/3 the price. If American consumers could walk into a dealer, touch both vehicles, and choose between them, Detroit loses. So the government made sure you never get that choice. And tell me something, where in the world are you watching this from, and what time is it there right now? Drop it in the comments. And subscribe if you're new. This is where the most extraordinary stories come alive. In 2010, China had 1% of the global EV market and was often dismissed as a copycat region. The United States had 12% and felt secure. Today, China controls 60% and the manufacturing trucks never stop moving. The United States has fallen to 11%. China produces 78% of the world's lithium-ion battery cells. Factories stretching across industrial parks, their smokestacks visible from space. South Korea produces 8%. Japan produces 6%. The United States produces 4%. CATL has more production capacity than every American battery maker combined. Their gigafactories processing raw materials into finished cells at a pace no Western competitor can match. BYD produces more batteries than Tesla, LG, and Panasonic put together. The EV race is already over. China won. What we are watching now is damage control. In 2022, Ford announced $50 billion for EVs through 2026, a number that sounded enormous at Wall Street conferences. GM committed $35 billion, another massive figure. BYD spent $15 billion and sold more EVs than both combined. Ford buys batteries from SK Innovation, which buys lithium from Ganfeng in China, which mines it in Australia and refines it in Jiangxi, passing the material through 4 separate supply chains and 3 continents. By the time Ford gets the battery, 4 companies and 3 continents have taken a margin, each one adding their profit. BYD mines the lithium itself in Guangzhou, refines it in their own facilities, builds the cell in their own battery factory, and installs it in the car on their own assembly line. That is the difference between a $55,000 EV and a $10,000 one. The accumulation of all the middlemen. China subsidized the factories 15 years ago when this plan was announced. They already owned the supply chain. In 2023, Chinese automakers exported 4.91 million vehicles, more than Germany and Japan combined. China became the world's largest car exporter, shipping vehicles to 190 countries. If Chinese EVs enter the American market at $10,000 to $15,000, legacy automakers cannot compete. Their CFOs know this because they have run the scenarios. The average profit margin on a car in America is $3,500, money that barely covers a dealer's rent. On an EV, it is $5,800, higher because the technology commands a premium. If BYD can sell a car for $10,000 and still make money, Ford and GM must match the price and lose billions or cede the market to a company from Shenzhen. The tariff is not a trade policy, it is a wall. Mexican buyers can get a BYD Dolphin for $21,000 walking into Mexican dealerships and driving away in cheaper EVs. Brazilians can get a BYD Seal for $33,000. Their auto market's already transforming. Europeans can get a BYD Atto 3 for 38,000 euros, their showrooms filled with Chinese options. Americans get nothing, not because the cars do not exist, but because letting you buy one would end an industry. This is not about protecting jobs. The plants stand empty regardless when demand shifts. It is about protecting assumptions that have governed the auto industry for half a century. For 50 years, the American auto industry believed, we innovate, they copy. Japan copied us in the 1970s and made better cars, their engineers studying American design and improving it. Germany refined what we started and sold at a premium, their precision becoming legendary. But we always stayed ahead on the next thing. EVs were supposed to be our next thing, the technology where American innovation would reassert itself. Tesla proved it could be done. Detroit got $80 billion in government loans and tax breaks, capital that should have transformed the industry. Then China skipped the playbook entirely. They did not try to build a better Tesla, like a student trying to beat a teacher. They built a different system where the battery company, car company, semiconductor company, and mining company are all one entity. One where 15-year government plans matter more than quarterly earnings reports to shareholders. One where losing $500 per car for 3 years is acceptable if it gets you to $10,000 per car by year 4. In 2000, the United States produced 23% of the world's manufactured goods, a number that felt permanent. China produced 7%. Today, China produces 31%, nearly a third of everything the world makes. The United States produces 16%, a share that continues shrinking. In 2015, China announced Made in China 2025, a plan to dominate 10 industries: electric vehicles, batteries, semiconductors, robotics, AI, aerospace, renewable energy, advanced rail, medical devices, and agricultural equipment. 9 years later, they lead in 7 of those 10, a scorecard that speaks for itself. The United States does not have a Made in America 2025 plan. We have tariffs. Tariffs are not a strategy. They are an admission you no longer have one. The tariff does not expire and has no sunset clause written into it. It is permanent until Congress or a future president reverses it, and no politician wants to be the one who lets the Chinese win. But BYD is already building factories in Mexico, Thailand, Brazil, Hungary, and Uzbekistan. They saw the tariff coming and moved like water around a rock. A BYD built in Mexico is subject to USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, which allows cars made in Mexico to enter the U.S. tariff-free as long as 75% of parts come from North America. The $10,000 car is not gone. It is just getting a Mexican passport. When it crosses the border in 2026 or 2027, wearing Made in Mexico badges on its hood, Detroit will have run out of time. China is not trying to beat the West at the old game, the game of innovation and licensing. They are playing a different one entirely. The old game was invent the technology, patent it, license it, control it, and collect rent forever. The new game is build the supply chain, own the scale, make it so cheap no one else can compete because they never built the foundation you did. Solar panels, lithium batteries, steel, drones, high-speed rail, 5G equipment follow the same pattern. Chinese companies appear, scale impossibly fast, and Western competitors discover they cannot match the price. China does not care if you invented it first. They care if you can still afford to make it. American companies plan in quarters, watching stock prices tick upward each week. Chinese companies plan in decades, building foundations their grandchildren will profit from. When BYD loses money on a car for 3 years to perfect the platform, Wall Street calls it a failure and sells the stock. When they start printing profit in year 4, it is called unfair competition, as if the problem was not their brilliance but your assumptions. Who decides what you are allowed to buy? You live in a country that calls itself the free market, a system where supply and demand set price and consumers make choices. But the market is only free until it produces an outcome the government does not like. The BYD Seagull is not banned because it is unsafe. The EPA and HTSA tested it rigorously, and it passed every requirement. It is banned because it is too good at being cheap. This is not the first time America has banned competition to protect an industry. In the 1980s, the US government pressured Japan to voluntarily limit car exports, a polite way of saying stop winning. It worked for a decade. Then Japan built factories here, learned American manufacturing, and never left. The same thing is happening now, except the gap is bigger, the clock is faster, and China is building factories everywhere Detroit is not. The United States spent the last 40 years perfecting the art of making money from money. Financial engineering, stock buybacks, shareholder value extraction. China spent the last 40 years perfecting the art of making things. Factories, supply chains, vertical integration, the actual work of production. You cannot tariff your way back to industrial dominance. You cannot ban your way to cheaper EVs. You have to build them, and building takes time and commitment and accepting losses until you achieve scale. China subsidizes the hard part, the factories, R&D, supply chains, the decade-long infrastructure builds, not the easy part, which is the purchase. The US gives you $7,500 to buy an EV, hoping you will choose American. China gave BYD $15 billion to build the platform that makes EVs cheap enough you do not need the rebate. A Chinese company just built an electric car for less than the cost of repairing a Tesla battery. It outsold every Tesla model in China. Your government made it illegal for you to buy one, not because it is unsafe, but because it works too well. BYD sold 3.02 million plug-in vehicles in 2023, factories running 3 shifts, workers clocking overtime. Tesla sold 1.8 million. Their growth impressive but insufficient. The gap is accelerating. The $10,000 car you cannot buy today will be the $9,000 car your neighbor drives in 2027. Built in Mexico, shipped tariff-free under USCA, and priced at half what Detroit can touch. The future of driving was decided in Shenzhen. Subscribe and turn on notifications. The next story makes this one look small.